Bullies try to humiliate quiet new girl, instantly regret it when she reveals her secret. A story by Heartfelt Tales. The sound of the metal locker door slamming shut echoed through the empty hallway like a prison cell closing. 16-year-old Maya Chen pressed her palms against the cold steel, her heart racing not from fear, but from the familiar surge of adrenaline she'd learned to control years ago. The three girls outside were laughing, their voices muffled but cruel, completely unaware that they had just made the biggest mistake of their high school careers. If you're enjoying this story of courage and unexpected strength, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories that touch the heart. Your support means everything to us. Maya had transferred to Riverside High just 2 weeks ago when her father's job relocated their family across the country. She was quiet by nature, preferring to observe before acting, a trait that had served her well in her previous school but seemed to mark her as an easy target here. What her new classmates didn't know was that Maya had been training in karate since she was 7 years old, earning her black belt just 6 months before the move. Her sensei had always taught her that true strength came from restraint, that the most powerful warrior was the one who chose when to fight. The bullying had started small. Jessica Morrison, the self-appointed queen of the junior class, had noticed Maya's worn sneakers and second-hand backpack on her first day. Jessica came from old money, the kind of family that donated wings to hospitals and had streets named after them. She ruled her social circle with an iron fist wrapped in designer gloves, and Maya's quiet confidence seemed to threaten the very foundation of her carefully constructed hierarchy. It began with whispered comments about Maya's clothes, escalated to accidental shoulder bumps in the hallway, and culminated in today's elaborate trap. Jessica had approached Maya after chemistry class with a fake smile, claiming she wanted to show her something cool in the rarely used basement lockers. Maya had sensed the deception immediately. Her years of training had sharpened her instincts, but she was curious to see how far Jessica would go. The basement hallway was dimly lit and isolated, perfect for Jessica's plan. She had positioned her two closest followers, Amanda and Brianna, at strategic points while she led Maya to an old, oversized locker that had been broken for months. The door looked normal from the outside, but Maya noticed the subtle signs, fresh scratches around the lock mechanism, the way Jessica's hands trembled slightly with nervous energy, and the barely contained excitement in her followers' eyes. "This is where they used to store old gym equipment," Jessica had said, her voice overly casual. "Want to see inside? There's supposed to be some vintage stuff from the 80s. Maya had nodded calmly, stepping closer to the locker. In one swift motion, Jessica had shoved her inside and slammed the door shut. The lock mechanism had been rigged to jam from the outside, trapping anyone unfortunate enough to fall for the trick. The girls had clearly done this before. "Hope you're comfortable in there, scholarship girl," Jessica's voice came through the metal. "Maybe spending a few hours in the dark will teach you your place at this school." Maya heard their footsteps retreating, followed by the distant sound of a heavy door closing. She was alone in the basement, trapped in a space barely large enough for her to stand upright. But instead of panic, she felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She had faced much more challenging situations in her training, and this was simply another test of her patience and problem-solving skills. She began by examining her surroundings. The locker was old but sturdy, with a few small ventilation slots near the top. She could breathe easily enough, and the space, while cramped, wasn't completely dark thanks to a sliver of light coming from the hallway. Maya settled into a meditative position, a technique her sensei had taught her for centering herself before competitions. As she sat in the darkness, Maya reflected on the challenges she had faced since moving to Riverside. The transition had been harder than she had anticipated. Her previous school in California had been diverse and accepting, but here she felt like an outsider in every way. Her family's financial struggles were more apparent among the wealthy student body, and her Asian heritage made her one of only a handful of minorities in her grade. She had hoped to find her place gradually, but Jessica's hostility had made that impossible. Maya's thoughts drifted to her sensei, Master Kim, who had become like a second father to her over the years. He had taught her that every challenge was an opportunity for growth, that strength wasn't about overpowering others but about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. She thought about the other students she had observed being bullied by Jessica's crew, quiet kids who ate lunch alone, shy freshmen who flinched when the popular crowd passed by, anyone who didn't fit into Jessica's narrow definition of acceptable. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, Maya heard voices in the hallway. Her heart sank as she recognized them. Jessica and her friends had returned, but they weren't alone. She could hear other students, and from their concerned tones, it seemed like someone was looking for her. "Maya? Maya, are you down here?" The voice belonged to David Chen, no relation despite the shared surname, a quiet boy from her AP history class who had shown her kindness when others hadn't. Maya was about to call out when she heard Jessica's panicked whisper, "We need to get her out of there before anyone finds her." This was supposed to be a quick lesson, not a missing person case. "The lock is jammed," Amanda's voice was shaky. "I can't get it open." "Try harder," Jessica hissed. "If we get caught, we're dead." Maya realized this was her moment. She could have called out to David, could have played the victim and let Jessica face the consequences of her actions. But as she listened to the fear in the girls' voices, she saw an opportunity for something more meaningful than simple revenge. Maya had been working on the lock mechanism while she waited, using techniques she had learned not from karate but from her mechanically inclined grandfather. The lock was old and poorly maintained, and with the right pressure applied to the correct spots, it would open easily. She had been free to leave whenever she wanted. "Maya?" David's voice was getting closer. Maya made her decision. She positioned herself carefully, took a deep breath, and with a precise strike using her elbow, she hit the specific point on the lock mechanism that would make it appear to fail catastrophically. The sound of grinding metal echoed through the hallway, followed by a loud clank as the lock fell to the floor in pieces. The door swung open, and Maya stepped out calmly, as if she had simply been waiting for the right moment. Jessica, Amanda, and Brianna stood frozen in shock, their faces pale with terror. David rushed toward her, relief evident on his face. "Maya, thank God you're okay," he said. "When you didn't show up for study group, I got worried. I heard voices down here and thought I'd check." Maya looked at Jessica, who was staring at the destroyed lock mechanism with wide eyes. "That's interesting," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying a calm authority that made everyone freeze. "This lock was rigged to trap people inside. I wonder who would do such a thing." Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She had expected Maya to emerge crying, defeated, maybe even traumatized. Instead, she stood there with perfect composure, somehow having escaped from what should have been an impossible situation. We found you in there," Jessica stammered, her usual confidence completely shattered. Maya stepped closer, and Jessica instinctively took a step back. For the first time, she noticed something different about Maya's posture, the way she moved with fluid precision, the quiet strength that radiated from her despite her small frame. "You found me?" Maya's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. That's strange, because I remember you showing me this locker. You seemed very interested in whether I wanted to look inside. David was looking between them, clearly sensing the tension but not understanding its source. Maya made another calculated decision. You know what, though? I'm actually grateful, Maya said, her voice warming slightly. Being trapped in there gave me time to think. I've been struggling to find my place at this school, feeling like an outsider. But I realized something important while I was in there. She turned to address all of them, but her eyes lingered on Jessica. I realized that everyone here is fighting their own battles. Some people lash out when they feel threatened or insecure. Some people hurt others because they're hurting inside themselves. And some people, she looked directly at Jessica, are so afraid of losing control that they'll do anything to maintain their power, even if it means hurting innocent people. Jessica's face had gone from pale to red, shame and anger warring in her expression. You don't know anything about me, she said, but her voice lacked its usual venom. You're right, Maya admitted. I don't know your story. But I know that whatever you're going through, hurting other people won't fix it. It will only make you feel worse about yourself in the long run. Amanda and Brianna exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. They had signed up to be part of Jessica's power plays, not to confront deep truths about themselves. Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. I've spent years learning that true strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about protecting people, building them up instead of tearing them down. It's about choosing to be kind even when others aren't kind to you. She gestured toward the broken lock. Someone went to a lot of trouble to trap me in that locker. They probably expected me to come out crying, maybe even traumatized. But all they accomplished was showing me that I'm stronger than I thought, and that this school has a serious problem with bullying that needs to be addressed. David was staring at Maya with new respect. You're incredibly calm for someone who was just trapped in a locker, he said. Maya smiled slightly. I've been in tighter spots. Besides, I had faith that someone would come looking for me eventually. Thank you for that, by the way. Jessica finally found her voice again. Are you going to report this? She asked, and for the first time, she sounded like a scared teenager rather than a queen bee. Maya considered the question seriously. That depends, she said finally. Are you going to continue bullying people? Are Amanda and Brianna going to keep helping you? Are you going to target other students who don't fit into your idea of what's acceptable? The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. Jessica's eyes darted between her friends and Maya, clearly calculating her options. What do you want? Jessica asked finally. I want you to stop, Maya said simply. I want you to understand that every person you've hurt is somebody's daughter, somebody's friend, somebody who matters. I want you to use your influence to make this school a better place instead of a more dangerous one. Maya paused, then continued with the quiet authority of someone who had found her true strength. And if you can't do that, if you choose to continue hurting people, then yes, I will report this. But I'll also do something else. She stepped closer to Jessica, and her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more power than any shout. I'll make sure everyone in this school knows exactly what kind of person you really are. Not through rumors or gossip, but through your own actions. Because eventually, bullies always reveal themselves. Jessica's face went through a series of emotions, anger, fear, confusion, and finally, something that might have been respect. She had built her reputation on intimidating others, but she had never encountered someone who refused to be intimidated. How did you get out of that locker? Amanda asked suddenly, her voice small. The lock was completely jammed. Maya glanced at the broken mechanism on the floor. Sometimes things aren't as impossible as they seem. Sometimes we're stronger than we know. And sometimes, she looked directly at Jessica, the people trying to trap us are actually trapping themselves. David was still processing everything he had witnessed. Maya, you should definitely report this. What they did was illegal. Maya nodded thoughtfully. You're right, it was. But I believe in giving people a chance to do better. Everyone deserves an opportunity to choose a different path. She turned to Jessica one final time. I'm not going to report this incident, but I am going to be watching. Not just watching you, but watching out for the other students you've targeted. If I see anyone else being bullied, if I hear about anyone else being hurt, then we'll have a very different conversation. Jessica nodded stiffly, clearly struggling with the unfamiliar feeling of being outmaneuvered by someone she had dismissed as weak. As they all prepared to leave the basement, Maya paused at the base of the stairs. Oh, and Jessica? Next time you want to know something about me, just ask. I would have been happy to tell you about my karate training, my state championship medals, or the anti-bullying workshops I've led at my previous school. Getting to know someone is usually more effective than trying to intimidate them. Jessica's eyes widened as the full implication of Maya's words sank in. She had tried to trap a black belt karate champion who could have easily overpowered all three of them. The only reason she and her friends weren't nursing broken bones was because Maya had chosen restraint over retaliation. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened at Riverside High. Jessica didn't completely transform overnight, but she did stop her campaign of harassment. More importantly, other students began to notice that the culture of fear she had created was starting to crumble. Students who had been targets began to speak up, knowing that Maya had somehow shifted the balance of power. Maya started a lunch table for anyone who felt like an outsider, and to everyone's surprise, it became one of the most popular spots in the cafeteria. She organized study groups that brought together students from different social circles, and she worked with the school administration to establish a peer mediation program for resolving conflicts. 3 months later, Maya stood in the school gymnasium, wearing her karate gi and demonstrating self-defense techniques to a group of interested students. Jessica sat in the front row, not as a queen bee surrounded by followers, but as a student genuinely interested in learning about something beyond her previous narrow world. The most important thing to remember, Maya told the group, is that physical techniques should always be your last resort. Real strength comes from having the confidence to stand up for yourself and others with your words, your actions, and your character. She demonstrated a basic defensive stance, her movements fluid and precise. But when someone tries to hurt you or trap you, you need to know that you have options. You're never as powerless as someone else wants you to believe. After the demonstration, Jessica approached Maya hesitantly. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. Not just for the locker thing, but for everything. I was going through some stuff at home, and I took it out on people who didn't deserve it. Maya nodded, her expression understanding rather than judgmental. Thank you for saying that. It takes courage to admit when we've made mistakes. I've been thinking about what you said, Jessica continued. About everyone fighting their own battles. I want to do better. I want to be better. Maya smiled, and for the first time, it was directed at Jessica with genuine warmth. I believe you can be. We all have the power to choose who we want to become. As the school year progressed, Maya became known not as the quiet new girl who had been bullied, but as the student who had transformed the entire social dynamic of Riverside High. She had shown everyone that true strength wasn't about fighting back or getting revenge, but about choosing to break cycles of hurt and building something better in their place. The broken locker in the basement was eventually repaired, but Maya made sure it was never forgotten. She had a small plaque installed nearby that read, "Sometimes our greatest challenges become our greatest opportunities for growth." It served as a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose light over darkness, strength over weakness, and courage over fear. Maya's story spread beyond the walls of Riverside High, inspiring other students in other schools to stand up against bullying and create positive change in their communities. She had discovered that the most powerful weapon against darkness wasn't a physical technique or a black belt, but the unwavering belief that every person deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you for joining us for this incredible story of courage, resilience, and the power of choosing kindness over revenge. If Maya's journey inspired you, please let us know in the comments below. What would you have done in her situation? Don't forget to like this video if it touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more stories that celebrate the strength of the human spirit. Remember, we all have the power to choose who we become and how we treat others. Until next time, keep spreading kindness and standing up for what's right.